Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. We're continuing our Pac-12 football predictions today, and our next team has just won 12 games over the past 4 seasons, but brings in a new head coach and are looking to become relevant in the Pac-12 North. They are the Oregon State Beavers. Oregon State hasn't been to a bowl game since 2013, but they're looking to change all of that by hiring Jonathan Smith, a former star quarterback for the Beavers, to try to come in here and right the ship and make Oregon State relevant once again, and at least try to improve on that 1-11 record that they had last year. It was just a disastrous season for the Beavers. Gary Anderson stepped aside after the USC game, and then Corey Hall, the cornerbacks coach, was promoted to interim. And after that, you really saw a drastic change in the way the Beavers played. A little more fight in them, a little more pep in their play. They almost beat Colorado, losing that game by 3, losing that game late, I should add. And then they lost to Stanford by 1. That would have been a major upset. But they just weren't able to get any victories under Hall. And then they brought in Jonathan Smith, to try to come in here and right the ship. And he does have some talent this year. He returns 15 starters, 7 on offense, 8 on defense, a solid quarterback to work with in Jake Luton. So maybe as a former quarterback, Jonathan Smith can work with him and get some better play out of Luton and his quarterbacks. You've got Timmy Hernandez coming in at wide receiver, one of their solid receivers from last year, and 3 returning offensive linemen. So the offense isn't going to be horrible, but the offense only averaged 20.7 points per game last year. So they really need to get an uptick in that, getting that to maybe at least 26, 27 points per game. The defense, extremely young. They returned 8 starters on that side of the ball, which is great, but they are a very young team. The majority of their starters, at least half their starters, are in their secondary. Every single member of their secondary returns from last season. They're going to be extremely strong. You got Jay Irvine, you got Isaiah Dunn, Jalen Moore, and David Morris. So a very strong defense, especially in the secondary positions, but also a very young defense as well, which is going to be great for the future with Smith. And they open up the year, and I couldn't think of a worse way to open up your career at a new school with a game on the road against Ohio State, a constant college football playoff contender, Big Ten champion last year. This is just a brutal game to open up with. Some people have talked about how crazy it would be if Oregon State came in to Columbus and beat Ohio State. That would be insane. Not going to happen, though. Not in the first game of the Jonathan Smith era. Ohio State just have too much speed and too much talent. You've got Dwayne Haskins, you've got J.K. Dobbins, you've got Nick Bosa on the defensive line. This is just a super, super strong Ohio State team and an Oregon State team that maybe will improve a little bit point-wise, stat-wise, but not going to be good enough to go on the road and beat Ohio State. They do come back home, get the first win in the Jonathan Smith era with a win over Southern Utah, and I do think they go on the road and defeat a solid Mountain West opponent in Nevada, who returns 14 starters and went just 3-9 last year. Could have been better, but they were hit with a bunch of injuries. But I think they can go on the road and get a solid win over a decent Nevada team. And anytime you can go on the road and get a win, that's always huge. So 2-1 to start the season. Then you hit Pac-12 play. Open up the season against Arizona. A tough game. Another stat you got to throw in there. The defense last year, even though they returned 8 starters, they allowed 43 points per game last year. And their first Pac-12 game is coming up against Arizona, led by Khalil Tate at quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks, I think, in the nation in terms of dual threat. You've got Kevin Sumlin, who comes in, who knows how to work with those dual threat quarterbacks. Tons of talent returning for the Wildcats, and 9 returning stars on defense. This could be a blowout for Oregon State. They're going up against a very, very solid Arizona team. I have a lot of faith in Kevin Sumlin, so even though it is at home, I think they're going to need a great day out of their defense to contain Khalil Tate, and I just don't see that happening in their first Pac-12 game here, so a loss for Oregon State. On the road against Arizona State, another team with a new head coach. You got Herm Edwards coming in, one of the more intriguing hires, I think, one that I think will end up paying off in the end. I love Manny Wilkins at quarterback, though. He's extremely solid there. A very solid offense for Arizona State. Their defense isn't getting a lot of credit. Will have a fairly solid defense. I believe they only return 4 starters on that side of the ball, but will still be better than most expect. And by this point, you're almost done with September, so they will be able to work out any problems that they have. It's on the road, and once again, they're going up against a very, very solid quarterback. And I think the key for Oregon State this season is going to be their defense. The offense can put up some points, but they've got this is a very deep Pac-12 conference that has some solid quarterbacks and solid wide receivers. You got Khalil Tate, Manny Wilkins. Washington's got Jake Browning. Oregon's got Justin Herbert, KJ Costello. Ross Bowers of California. You've got solid quarterbacks and solid offenses in this Pac-12 conference. And if you don't have a defense, you're going to be in trouble. So I think the defense is more of the key for Oregon State than anything else. I just don't see them getting the win over the Sun Devils, especially on the road. Washington State at home, a very good chance Oregon State could get their first conference win here. I'm not going to call for it. I'm going to give them the loss of the Cougars. But Washington State, a team under Mike Leach, has done great in recent years, but only returns 10 starters, including 4 on offense. So this is the opportunity for the defense with those 8 returning starters to pounce on this opportunity. It's at home and get a win over the Cougars with a weaker offense, whether it's Gardner Minshew or Trey Tinsley at the quarterback position, losing their triple threat leading rusher, and leading wide receiver for the Cougars. But I think in the end, I think Washington State's got a little bit of a better quarterback position, and I think their defense, even though they've returned less starters than Oregon State, is going to have a little too much strength. I think they're going to get the win, even though it is on the road. So another loss there. A bye week going in to California, a California team that's extremely dangerous in this Pac-12 North, returning 18 starters. Could be a sleeper. I mean, they're not going to be able to compete against Washington and Oregon and Stanford, but will get back to a bowl game, I think, this year in Justin Wilcox's second year, surprising me, and I think surprising a lot of people, going 5-7. I love Ross Bowers at the quarterback position. I love Luke Beckett and some of those defensive linemen. They're returning 8 starters on that side of the ball. This is a California team they can't afford to sleep on. Yes, it is at home for Oregon State. I just don't see them getting the job done, even though they do have a week of rest coming into this game. So another loss to the Golden Bears. Then at Colorado, another team maybe, if Oregon State can start working out some stuff, could go on the road and win this game. A Colorado team that I do think is good enough to return to a bowl game. I love Stephen Montez at quarterback and the job that Mike McIntyre has done with the Buffaloes. I believe they returned, like Washington State, 4 on offense and 6 on defense. But a Colorado team, with it being on the road, hoping to bounce back. 2 years ago in the Pac-12 championship game, last year just missing out on the bowl game. They're hungry, and they certainly do have the talent. I just think they're going to be too much all around for this Oregon State team, especially with it being on the road for the Beavers. So another loss for Oregon State there. And then losses to USC and Stanford. This is really, if they want to go to a bowl game or get even close to that, they're going to have to do it before November, because look who they face in November. They face the top teams in the Pac-12: Stanford, Washington, Oregon, and USC, a team from the South. I mean, Stanford and Washington being on the road, you're facing the best of the best in the Pac-12, and it's all 4 straight games. So I don't see Oregon State winning any of these games. USC, yes, they lose Sam Darnold, but they're going to be able to play. So Clay Helton is a heck of a head coach. He's going to be able to get some talent in there. I assume it's going to be Matt Fink, but we don't know. They still have a bit of a quarterback battle going on. They lost some solid talent there, but 13 returning starters for USC, still a threat in the Pac-12 South. Stanford, it's on the road, but they still have to bottle up Bryce Love. And remember last year, though, it was a 1-point loss for Oregon State. They almost beat the Cardinal last year. It was a major upset. I believe it was 15-14. This game, though, at Stanford, Stanford is going to have too much all around. I don't believe Bryce Love played in that Oregon State game either. So you've got Bryce Love, you've got KJ Costello, and a very solid defense, 9 returning starters on offense, and it's on the road. I just don't see that happening. Washington, a team that's just going to have way too much firepower, even if this Oregon State team surprises us and does way better than that 43 points per game. Myles Gaskin, Jake Browning, great wide receivers, and a Chris Peterson offense, and it's on the road. I just don't see that happening. And as always, closing out the year against their rival in Oregon, a loss there as well, because if Justin Herbert can stay healthy, it is going to be ugly. It was ugly last year for the Beavers. And Oregon, a team that I am very high on and could see them potentially challenging Stanford and Washington in the Pac-12 North. So all in all, it's not going to be a great year that Oregon State fans are hoping for in year 1 of the Jonathan Smith era, just going 2-10. But I think, obviously, you've improved. I mean, by week 3, they've improved. They've doubled their win total from 2017. And I think this is a sign of good things to come. They will lose Jake Luton after this season. But Jonathan Smith, you've got to give him time. By year 3 or year 4, I think you'll start to see some major strides in this Oregon State team to the point where they might be able to get back to their first bowl game since 2013. I just don't see that happening this year. The schedule is extremely brutal, and there's just too much inexperience on this Beavers team, and they're bringing in a new head coach. I just don't see it. I think last year should have been the year that they were going to take some strides, and they weren't able to do that. You only just 1-11. But I do see them improving by 1 game in Jonathan Smith's first year, and I cannot wait to see what he brings to the table in the following years for this Beavers squad. So as always, please go check us out on Twitter at Gridiron Expert, on Instagram at The Gridiron Expert, and always here on YouTube. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.